Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table, what you see in front of you is the M&P 2.0. I did a review the other day on the gun, but it was really just a brief review. It was really mostly on the Apex trigger. And this is kind of a continuation of that. Today I went and shot it, and I came out back with some different feelings about the gun and also about the trigger. So to give you kind of a brief overview, what I found with the gun is that if you've owned previous M&Ps before this model was released, you really owe it to yourself to go out and get one of these. I am absolutely stunned on how well of a shooter this gun really is. Now, of course, is that something to do with the trigger? Probably, guys. I'm not going to lie. I've never been a fan of the original M&P trigger. This trigger on here is it's phenomenal. But the gun overall surprised me for a lot of different reasons. First off, the gun is an extremely, extremely soft shooting gun. I think a lot of that has to do with obviously the metal insert or the steel insert they put in the front here, because there's not a lot of muzzle flip whatsoever with this handgun. It is probably one of the softest shooting guns that I've ever shot, and definitely the softest at this point, with the exception, of course, of the Steyr. The Steyr, I think, is probably still the softest of all, but this is definitely second to all of them, even including the P10 in that discussion. With that being said, a couple of things that I really liked was the grip. The texturing on this grip is fantastic. I did not feel like my hand was going to move at all, and that's something to be said, especially when you start to shoot a lot. I did a lot of shooting today, guys, and I have to tell you that at first, I thought my hands were going to be too sweaty to really get a good grip on this gun, but the way this gun hugs your hand is phenomenal, and that has a lot to do with the texturing of this grip. The grip texturing is fairly aggressive. However, when you're holding it and when you're shooting it, and by the way, the gun is checked since I did shoot it today. But when you're holding a gun, you think that it's going to really be too abrasive for your hand. Guys, I'm going to tell you that it's absolutely not that abrasive. It's actually a very, very good shooter where you get a very good purchase on the gun and you feel very confident with it, and that's great. One of the other things that I really liked about the gun as well was actually the length of the grip. The grip isn't overly long. The Glock 17 I have is longer than this. I would say it's very close to being M&P-ish, or excuse me, not M&P-ish, HK, VP9-ish, around that area. However, when I went and used my support hand to come around on the gun, my pinky, which is absolutely awesome on this gun, rests right in this actual place right here. So I actually feel like I get a very, very good strong grip on this gun. And I have to say, guys, I really, really enjoyed that. Now, let's get back to the trigger. The trigger on this is amazing. The Apex trigger that they put in here, or that I put in here, they didn't put it. I wish they would have. I put in this Apex trigger. I actually pulled it out a couple of days ago and I actually changed some of the springs. So right now I'm riding with the purple plunger spring and the stock or factory trigger spring. And right now I'm pulling around, I think it was like 4 and change, which is great. I absolutely love it. It's not too light. It's not too heavy. Again, just to show you the trigger, this is your take up right here, guys. And it's like so light. There's barely any movement. Again, the reset is right there. And again, very light trigger. So for me, I think the biggest advantage of this gun right now was the trigger. The trigger makes this gun absolutely one of the best on the market. If you can go out and get one, I would strongly urge you to, especially if you're a fan of the M&P. With that being said, I'm going to show you some footage of me shooting. The first footage you're going to see here is really the beginning, and then you're going to see the next set of shooting that I did. Wasn't really that great. I will tell you, it took a little bit of getting used to how light this trigger was. Again, I'm not necessarily a guy who prefers flat face triggers, and I'm really just getting into them now. And it takes a little time for me to get used to that. But I will tell you that after shooting, I think I put about 200 rounds through this today. I'd have to look at my box, but about 200 rounds through it, I would tell you it just got better. It just got a lot nicer to shoot. And man, it's a soft shooting gun. So let's take a look at that footage.
Here you go. 5 rounds. Don't miss the bullet.
trigger. It is amazing.
Okay, so welcome back. So you noticed the groupings were at the beginning a little bit wild, and then they got tighter and tighter as it went on. Again, that was my first probably like 50 rounds of the day, and it only got better as I shot more and more. What I did notice in regards to the trigger is the trigger really makes you want to push it or pull it faster. That was the one thing I have to say that I noticed. I kept wanting to shoot this gun super fast. And I think it's just because of the lightness of the trigger and just how smooth that trigger really is. I mean, there's very, very, very little take up. And for those of you who have this handgun at home, you'll know that the stock trigger has even more than that. It pushes a little bit further back. But then when it's such a clean, smooth break on that trigger. And even the reset is just so defined and so short that even the secondary pull, your follow-up shots, it just makes you want to race this gun as much as you can. And I'm very happy with it. I mean, I can't say enough. You know, I know some people might say, well, why would you go out and spend money on an expensive trigger when you just spent money on a gun? And again, I can't convince you one way or another. I will tell you, though, that if you're a fan of an M&P, and there are a lot of diehard fans of the M&P series out there, this is a no-brainer, guys, period. It's just that simple. You know, people go out and spend money to have their guns Cerakoted, stippled, this, and that. You cannot go wrong if you go out and you get this trigger, okay? I think for me personally, I've always been a fan of the M&P. I just hated the triggers on them. Now that I have this one, I have to say, guys, this is absolutely one of my favorite handguns just for the short time I've had it. And I can't complain about it. So my opinion, guys, you can't go wrong with this. You can't go wrong with that. And together, perfect combination. So hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe out there. And as always, freedom is never free.